tonight we are gonna make pizza. I've made pizza before on the vlog, in the beginning, the very beginning, I think. And I just did our red sauce pizza and our normal crust, but tonight I am gonna try to make Alfredo pizza for the first time. In my video the other day, I made some garlic scape pesto, and I want to do an Alfredo sauce with some of that pesto, and I think it's gonna be good. So let's get cooking. I have to make both sauces tonight, and then once they are simmering, I will make the dough and get that par baked in the oven. This is a little ambitious, but I'm gonna try to make both of these at the same time because we would like to eat dinner at a decent hour tonight. So in this pot, I'm gonna do the Alfredo sauce, and I'm just gonna melt down 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm pretty used to making Alfredo sauces, so hopefully it's not crazy. Here in the pizza sauce pan, I'm gonna heat up some olive oil. And then to the olive oil, I'm gonna add a clove of garlic. Once this garlic gets cooked, I'm gonna put in these tomatoes. These are the Azure whole peeled tomatoes, and this recipe for the pizza sauce wants crushed tomatoes. So I always just throw them in the food processor, and I don't get them completely fine, but it's a nice consistency and it works just fine. That way we don't have to stock multiple cans of 28-ounce tomatoes. As soon as that garlic is fragrant, I will add my tomato products. I don't know how I did this, but I completely ran out of tomato paste. I should have had it on the last Azure order, and I just didn't. So I'm gonna use the last 3 of my tomato paste pucks. It's probably shy of a can. It calls for a full can, but this will just have to do. This is all we have. I will post all the recipes down below in case anybody wants to try this. I'm gonna give this tomato paste a chance to thaw before I add the other tomato product. While that's going, I am gonna add my flour to the butter for the Alfredo sauce. There's some salt and a little bit of pepper. And I'm gonna go get a cup of milk ready to go for when this is all cooked. All right, this flour butter mixture is sizzling, and I'm gonna pour in this milk. And then this is just gonna cook until it thickens up, and then that part is done. Meanwhile, I think my tomato paste is just about broken down. No big frozen chunks. So in go the crushed tomatoes. Calls for half a tablespoon of sugar. I never measure, I probably do closer to a tablespoon. 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Pinch of pepper. Lastly, I have a handful of basil and oregano. And then from this point, this is pretty hands-off. It's just gonna simmer for, well, as long as we can let it go before we really need to put it on our pizza. It will thicken up a little bit though. Check back in with our Alfredo sauce. It is starting to thicken. It's not quite ready yet. I'm assuming I want this pretty thick. Oh, there it goes. It's reaching a good spot now. I want it pretty thick because I don't want it to be, you know, running off the sides of the pizza or whatever. Okay, that's pretty thick. If you can see that. I think I'm gonna pop a lid on this because it's starting to do that tomato poppy thing. A pretty fun addition for this recipe is they want you to put this rosemary garlic butter, for the Alfredo recipe that is. It's a rosemary Alfredo garlic butter that they want you to spread on the crust before you put the Alfredo down. Now it wants a pinch of rosemary, and rosemary kind of drives me nuts because it's in these big old strips, you know? And it hurts to crush it between your hands. But I am gonna try to crush it just a little bit. And hopefully if it has some time to sit here in the butter, it will infuse some of its flavor. I don't grow any fresh rosemary, oregano, or thyme, just because I feel like the dry stuff works just fine and is so readily available that I just don't think it's worth it, but sometimes I wonder if I should. Okay, so all of our sauces are almost done. This is just gonna simmer away while we get our crust going. So here I've had my yeast mixture blooming for a few minutes, and I'm gonna add it to the flour. Now the recipe I linked below is for 1 pizza. So this is a double recipe here since we're gonna make 2 separate pizzas tonight. I have found sometimes with this recipe that if you do 2 cups of flour, sometimes it's too much. I wish there were grams listed. So it might be wise to start with maybe 1 3/4, and then you would just add extra flour if it's too loose. My flour wasn't very compacted tonight because I just refilled my flour jar, so I think this is the perfect amount tonight. I don't think I'm gonna add any flour on my counter since I have just a tiny bit of extra flour that needs to be worked into the dough. Take my rings off. I'm just gonna knead this until it's smooth. It doesn't have to be kneaded for very long, especially on nights that I'm in a hurry. I definitely skimp on this step. But you know what? I think my dough actually does feel a little damp. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit on there. So I really don't want it to stick to my counters. Okay. And then I'm gonna roll out 2 separate doughs. Before I do that though, I better get the trays ready. All right, I have my cornmeal trays off to the side here, ready to go. And I'm just gonna roll out my first dough. Oops.
Oh my, your head, Rhino. Oh my. Daddy? This, oh my, a good word. And, Daddy? Put this one down.
And on to the tray it goes.
What?
I'm just gonna score these so they don't get super puffy in the oven. And then they are gonna bake for 8 minutes. Now it is time to sauce our pizzas. My husband and I prefer the pizza on this sheet. It gets a little bit crispier on the bottom. So I'm gonna make that one the special one.
Mom, I know those are your ones. Which one's to be the normal one?
This one.
Okay, so the circle is to be the normal one. This was to be the different one.
Yep.
Okay.
Now it's time for our fancy schmancy one. Gonna stir up our butter mixture and spread it over.
I'm gonna rice you up right now. Oh, Zala. Before we bite into the sauce, before the sauce, we do butter. But
That already smells amazing. Now I will say I made my Alfredo sauce way too early in the process. Lesson learned there. It cooled down and of course got quite chunky, so I think it will still work. It's a little hard to spread over the butter, but I didn't want the butter to run over the edges, but it's a little bit inevitable. I realized I forgot the Parmesan in the actual Alfredo sauce, so I'm just gonna sprinkle it right now. And here's my garlic Alfredo pesto. I think I'm only gonna put this on half of the pizza. I have a feeling my husband might not eat this. And I don't know if I'm gonna like it either. So, I'm just gonna do that. Spread it in there. It does smell very sharp and like spicy right now because it's raw. So I wonder if it will lose some of that intensity in the oven, become a little bit more like pesto. And then here goes the cheese. I'm still gonna do a sprinkling of mozzarella on this. And then of course this pizza will get lots. We're sort of a boring topping family because our kids don't like a whole lot, and then my husband and I don't always agree on toppings. We usually just have cheese pizza. All right, back in the oven for 5 minutes. Here are the pizzas. Here's our usual red sauce. It looks delicious. And then here is the garlic scape side. This one smells amazing too. I'm excited to try it. All right, thank you all so much for joining. Have a great day. Bye.